Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really zeroing in on a company that's, well, pretty much become synonymous with defending against some of the most sophisticated cyber threats out there.
Definitely at the forefront.
Exactly. Right at the vanguard of digital security. We're talking about CrowdStrike. And this deep dive, it's built directly from a really detailed investment analysis report. So it gives us this kind of insider's view into their business model, their financials, where they stand competitively, and, their future positioning.
Right, a comprehensive look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our mission for you today is basically to cut through all the noise, pull out those essential insights that make CrowdStrike such a critical player, from the tech that powers them to their, frankly, impressive financial health. By the end of this, you should feel genuinely well-informed about, well, a key player in what's an absolutely vital sector these days.
Couldn't agree more. It's critical.
Okay, let's unpack this then. So CrowdStrike, they kind of burst onto the scene back in 2011, and they had this super clear, singular mission to stop breaches.
Simple but powerful.
Right. And at the absolute core of how they do that is their flagship offering, the Falcon platform.
That's the engine.
It really is. And what truly differentiates Falcon, and what our source material keeps highlighting, is that it's built cloud native. It's powered by AI. And it's designed right from the get-go as a unified solution.
Yeah, and that combination, cloud native, AI powered, unified, that's really why it's so important right now.
Okay.
I mean, think about it. Today's digital world is incredibly complex, right?
Yeah.
You're not just protecting laptops anymore.
Oh, definitely not.
You've got sprawling cloud infrastructures, countless user identities flying around, sensitive data everywhere, and now even, the whole Internet of Things network.
Right, the IoT stuff.
Exactly. So a unified cloud-native platform like Falcon gives you that comprehensive protection across all these critical areas. So endpoint security for your, traditional devices, but also strong cloud security for apps and data in the cloud. Plus, identity protection, data protection, and what they're calling XIoT. That's Extended Internet of Things security.
XIoT. Okay.
Yeah. And on top of that, it includes vital threat intelligence and offers MDR, which is managed detection and response.
Right.
So this whole holistic approach, it massively simplifies security management for companies, which honestly is a huge headache for most IT departments.
That simplification point, that really seems key, especially when you think about their big competitors, Palo Alto Networks, Microsoft, even Sentinel alone.
For sure.
The report we looked at points to CrowdStrike's single-agent architecture as, a key differentiator. It's essentially one lightweight piece of software doing almost everything. Makes deployment and management way simpler for customers.
It does.
But I wonder, could relying on just one agent also be a potential weakness? Maybe it limits flexibility or, I don't know, creates a single point of failure sometimes.
That's a really critical question to ask. And while, some might see a single agent as maybe concentrating risk, CrowdStrike's architecture is actually designed to tackle this fundamental problem in the cybersecurity market, what they call integration complexity.
Ah, right. The patchwork quilt problem.
Exactly. So many organizations are stuck with this mess of different security tools that just don't talk to each other properly. And that creates dangerous blind spots, slows down response times.
Yeah, I can see that.
So CrowdStrike's approach with that one lightweight agent collecting data once and then applying it across all these integrated models, it aims to get rid of that chaos. It's not just about making things simple for simplicity's sake.
Right.
It's about cutting complexity and cost, sure. But mostly, it's about getting a much better, more cohesive security posture overall. The real strength is in the depth of data it collects and how smart it is about using that data across the whole platform instead of having, multiple agents just giving you fragmented views.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So beyond the tech, let's talk about the money. Because that's what really drives a company like CrowdStrike, right?
Absolutely.
And their financial journey. I mean, the report calls it remarkable financial growth. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
The source material lays out this consistent, strong growth and, importantly, a clear path to profitability. So for the full fiscal year 2024, their total revenue hit $3,060 million.
$3 billion, yeah. Big number.
And their annual recurring revenue, ARR, which is, the lifeblood for these subscription businesses,
Crucial metric.
that hit $3,650 million as of Q1 fiscal 25, which really shows, strong customer retention, expanding
Like
accounts.
keeping customers and selling them more stuff.
Exactly. But one detail in the report really jumped out at me. CrowdStrike actually hit GAAP profitability in FY24.
That's the big one.
Yeah. Reported GAAP net income of $89.3 million. And they're generating really strong free cash flow, too. $938.2 million in FY24 and $396.1 million just in Q1 of FY25.
And this isn't just, about making a profit on paper. Achieving GAAP profitability, that's a really strategic shift.
How so?
Well, it signals that CrowdStrike's core business, their operational engine, is running efficiently enough now to basically fund its own future growth, its own innovation, market expansion, all that.
Right.
And just for context, GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, that's kind of the gold standard for financial reporting. So being GAAP profitable means they're genuinely in the black, according to the strictest rules.
Yeah.
That's a huge step for a high-growth tech firm.
Okay.
It kind of shifts the whole narrative,
Yeah.
from just being a growth at all costs story to being this sustainable, self-sufficient powerhouse, one that can potentially outmaneuver competitors who might still be burning cash or relying on external funding. And then you add that strong free cash flow on top, that gives them enormous flexibility for R&D, maybe acquisitions, or just building up that balance sheet.
Which seems healthy, too.
Very healthy. The report mentions substantial cash reserve, over $4.6 billion as of March 31st, 2025.
Yeah.
That's a serious financial cushion.
Wow, okay. So with that kind of financial muscle, let's talk about the stock itself.
Right, the market's reaction.
Yeah. As of June 23rd, 2025, the stock was trading around $491.81, which is like practically touching its 52-week high of $494.30.
Very strong performance.
Does that suggest maybe that a lot of this good news, this strong performance, is already baked into the price? Maybe limiting the upside for new investors coming in now.
That's a very fair point to raise. And if you look at the technical indicators mentioned in the source,
okay,
well, things like the moving averages signal really strong long-term bullish momentum. The price is consistently way above its 20, 50, 200-day averages. Some of the oscillator indicators, like the RSI, Relative Strength Index, and stochastics, they do suggest the stock is maybe overbought in the short term.
Overbought.
Basically, these are momentum indicators. They suggest the price might have risen a bit too quickly, too soon. It doesn't automatically mean it's going to crash or anything.
Right.
But it could point towards maybe a temporary pause, some consolidation, maybe even a slight pullback as some investors take profits off the table before it potentially heads higher again. So yeah, to your point, a lot of the good news does seem reflected in that current price.
Interesting. But despite that potential short-term signal, the analyst sentiment from the report is just overwhelmingly positive, like 90.32% buy recommendations.
Yeah, that's a massive consensus. It really is.
That's huge.
And what's compelling there, I think, is that while the implied upside to the average analyst price target might look relatively modest from where the stock is now,
okay,
the high target that's cited in the report, which is $550, well, that still offers pretty substantial potential upside.
Ah, okay.
So that reflects, very strong confidence among analysts in the company's future earnings power. It's a long-term growth story.
Yeah.
And it's also worth mentioning the significant institutional ownership. Big firms like Vanguard, BlackRock, they hold large chunks of the shares.
Right, the big players.
Yeah, and that often signals stability and a strong belief from these major investors because they do their own deep homework.
Definitely. Okay, let's broaden the lens now, zoom out a bit to the whole cybersecurity market, because obviously CrowdStrike isn't operating in a bubble.
Not at all. It's a huge space.
It really is. The report estimates it at around $267 billion in 2024. And listen to this projection. It's expected to grow to a massive $540 billion by 2034.
Wow.
Which works out to a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, of about 7.4%. Those are just enormous numbers.
They are. And the forces driving that growth, that's what really sets the stage for companies like CrowdStrike.
Okay, what are they?
Well, first, you just got this ever-expanding attack surface, right? More devices everywhere,
Right.
Laptops, phones, servers, IoT things, plus widespread cloud adoption, the big shift to remote and hybrid work. It all just creates more potential weak spots for attackers to target.
More doors and windows to secure.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Second, the threats themselves are getting way more sophisticated. We're seeing more damaging ransomware, highly targeted attacks from, nation states.
Yeah. Seems like you hear about those constantly.
Constantly. And third, there's the regulatory hammer. Increasingly strict rules like GDPR in Europe, CCPA in California. They're really pushing organizations to invest heavily in strong security to avoid, well, massive fines and brand damage.
Makes sense. But it's not all easy growth, is it? The industry faces challenges too. The report mentions things like a big global talent shortage.
Oh, definitely. Finding and keeping skilled cybersecurity professionals is a constant battle for everyone. It's a huge issue.
Okay.
And then there's just the relentless pace of change. You need constant innovation just to keep up with the bad guys who are always finding new ways to attack. It's a nonstop arms race.
So zooming out, as you said, how does CrowdStrike's strategy fit into that bigger picture with those drivers and challenges?
Well, this is where their approach seems quite smart. That platform model, using the single lightweight agent we talked about, that directly tackles the industry's complexity problem and helps with the talent shortage by making things easier to manage.
Right. Simplifies things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Plus, they're actively integrating generative AI now, which is crucial for boosting threat detection, speeding up response, especially as attacks get sneakier.
AI is everywhere now.
It has to be in this field.
Yeah.
Beyond that, their strategy involves, constantly adding new modules to their platform and really focusing on cross-selling those to their existing customers so they get more revenue per customer over time.
Increase that wallet share.
Precisely. And their partnerships, particularly with the big cloud providers like AWS, those are critical because almost every business is operating in some kind of multi-cloud environment now.
Yeah.
You need security that works across all of them.
It seems pretty clear that just general public awareness of cyber risks, after all the high-profile breaches we've seen.
Yeah, it's top of mind.
That, combined with the tougher regulations, is just constantly fueling demand for really advanced solutions like CrowdStrike's.
Absolutely. And the recent news mentioned in the report really backs this up. CrowdStrike just posted strong Q1, fiscal 26 results, beat the earnings estimates, showed robust revenue growth again.
Good signs.
Very good signs. They've also announced new generative AI partnerships, showing they're staying on the cutting edge there. They've got new product innovations like Falcon Insight for IoT, extending their protection into that growing area. And significantly, they've picked up more government authorizations, like getting Impact Level 5 provisional authorization from the U.S. Department of Defense. That opens up really big, important government contracts.
Okay, IL5, that's a big deal for federal work. So let's try and bring this all together then. If we look at CrowdStrike through that classic SWOT analysis lens, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, what does it tell us overall? Let's start with the strengths.
Okay, strength. Well, number one is their market-leading cloud-native Falcon platform. That unified single-agent solution is a huge plus.
Right.
It's AI-powered, delivering, top-tier threat detection. Financially, as we discussed, they've got consistent, strong revenue growth. They've hit GAAP profitability, and they generate really robust free cash flow. They also boast high customer retention and expansion rates. They're backed by elite threat intelligence teams. And as we saw, they have very high analyst confidence behind them. Pretty formidable list.
Definitely sounds strong. Okay, what about the other side of the coin, the weaknesses the report points out?
The main one highlighted is that high valuation. The current stock price already assumes a lot of future growth, which might cap the upside, at least in the near term.
Okay, the price reflects the optimism.
Exactly. They also face really intense competition from huge, diversified companies like Microsoft and Palo Alto Networks, but also from other, maybe more focused specialists.
Crowded market.
Very. And like any tech leader, especially in cybersecurity, they constantly need to pour money into R&D just to stay ahead of the threats in the competition.
Yeah.
That's an ongoing cost.
Makes sense. Okay, looking ahead then, where do the opportunities lie for CrowdStrike, according to the analysis?
Well, the biggest opportunity is simply the expanding cybersecurity market itself. It's growing rapidly, driven by digital transformation, increasing threats, all the things we talked about.
The rising tide.
Pretty much. Specifically, there's huge continued growth potential in cloud security as businesses keep migrating workloads. Further integration of AI, especially generative AI, offers a massive competitive edge, more automation, proactive defense. And there are clear pathways for them to expand deeper into related areas like identity security, data protection, and also that sort of largely untapped potential in XIoT security. Lots of room to grow.
Okay. Lots of potential there. And finally, the threats. What are the main risks they need to navigate?
The number one threat is just the nature of the beast.
Mm-hmm.
The constantly evolving cyber threat landscape.
Hmm.
The bad guys are always innovating, so CrowdStrike has to constantly adapt just to keep up.
The arms race again.
Exactly.
Hmm.
There's also the potential for macroeconomic headwinds.
Hmm.
If the economy slows down, businesses might cut back on IT spending, which could impact growth across the board.
Right, budgets tighten.
Yeah. That ongoing talent shortage in cybersecurity remains a challenge for the whole industry, including them. And navigating the complex web of different global cybersecurity regulations adds complexity and compliance costs.
Okay, so even factoring in those challenges and threats, the report's long-term outlook for CrowdStrike still seems pretty positive overall.
It does, yeah. The conclusion seems to be that their strong market position, their innovative tech, and just the fundamental, enduring need for top-notch cybersecurity puts them in a really good spot to benefit from these big, long-term growth trends.
Got it. So this raises an important question. For sophisticated investors, or for you, our listener, trying to understand this space, what are the key things to monitor going forward, building on what the source recommends?
That's a good question. Based on the analysis, you'll definitely want to keep a close eye on their annual recurring revenue, the ARR. That's the core subscription revenue.
Okay.
But maybe even more critical is watching their net new ARR growth. That net new part is key.
Why net new?
Because it specifically measures how much new recurring revenue they're adding each quarter or year. It factors in wins from brand new customers plus expansions from existing ones, but after accounting for any customers they might lose. So it's a really direct measure of their current market momentum.
Ah, okay. Clear indicator of growth velocity.
Exactly. Also, watch the module adoption rates among their existing customers. Are clients using, say, 5, 6, 7 or more modules? That shows how sticky the platform is becoming and how much value customers see in that unified approach.
Makes sense. More modules, stickier customer.
Right. And of course, keep watching their continued innovation, especially around AI and any moves into new security areas. Always keep an eye on what the major competitors are doing.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the big question will be whether their growth trajectory and their profitability improvements continue to justify that current relatively high valuation.
Excellent summary. Wow, we have covered a remarkable amount of ground in this deep dive, from CrowdStrike's really innovative cloud-native technology and their impressive financial turnaround.
Yeah, quite a journey.
All the way to their strategic position in this absolutely booming cybersecurity market. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure. And maybe it's just a final thought for you to consider. In this increasingly digital world where, let's face it, every interaction, every piece of data is a potential target, how will companies like CrowdStrike not just stop the breaches we see today, but how will they proactively shape the entire landscape of digital trust and security for decades to come? Something to think about.